Been here going on 15 years now. I wouldn't recommend any crime that would lead you in a situation like this. It sobers you. It humbles you.
Even after all these years behind bars, Terrence Ford still struggles with the life he calls hell.
It's meant to punish you psychologically, and it does it.
Other than the prison yard, this is pretty much his entire world. A 6x10 cell where days seem to blend together, and the only connection to the outside is a tiny window that's sealed shut.
Not being able to just go outside or hear a bird or see trees blowing in the wind, that gets to you.
Even before arriving at Salinas Valley, a level 4 maximum security state prison, his life wasn't much better.
I remember I was 3, walking down the street by myself in my Pampers. My mother didn't even have a clue of where I was.
Born in Richmond, he grew up surrounded by gangs, drugs, and violence. It was, as he put it, the norm.
I've walked by cars and seen dead bodies just sitting in there that's been shot to death. I've walked up streets and seen dead bodies just laying on the street that I guess no one called the police to come get him.
By the time he was 18, he was already serving his first stint in prison for burglary. Then, in 2008, he held a driver at gunpoint, taking him with him. That resulted in a kidnapping charge and a sentence of 26 years to life.
Something I thought was simple turned in to be the worst mistake of my life.
According to the CDC, about 60% of adults suffer from some type of childhood trauma, compared to 97% among prison inmates. Even so, it's a topic that's rarely discussed within prison walls. But that might be changing.
Volunteers, are you ready?
Fritzi Horstman is the founder of a nonprofit called the Compassion Prison Project.
Arms out.
For the last 3 years, she's been educating officials and inmates about the long-term effects of childhood trauma.
Are you ready to face your past?
Studies have shown that early life abuse is linked to a host of psychological disorders, including depression, anxiety, and PTSD.
Being told you're not good enough by your family, being beaten up by your parents. This is damaging to not only their well-being, but their ability to perform well in school, their ability to, keep a job, to stay focused. We have more things in common than we have differences.
Horstman says she cares about these men, even though they've committed heinous crimes. She cares because she too suffered from physical and emotional abuse as a child.
I shoplifted, I sold drugs. I did things that really went against my own moral compass. We're gonna dive into your past right now. What happened to you as a little boy?
Her behavior, she says, was a direct result of her trauma, a message she's trying to pass on to the men at Salinas.
All right, guys.
Horstman starts by putting prisoners in a circle. Then she reads a set of questions from the CDC's ACE quiz, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or threw something at you, step inside the circle.
The rougher your childhood, the higher the ACE score.
If you often or very often felt that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, had no one to protect you, step inside the circle.
4 or more ACEs and you're at high risk for toxic stress. The likelihood of depression increases 460%. Attempted suicide, 1,220%.
Step inside the circle.
You're also 7 times more likely to go to prison.
Trauma separates us from ourselves.
No surprise, almost everyone here scores above 4. Some hit as many as 9.
That's another one.
Ford scores a 5 out of the original 10 questions used by the CDC. He scores a 7 in a second round of questions specifically designed for prisoners.
I guess you blind to trauma that you feel that you can handle mentally. So I was definitely living in blindness.
We all suffer.
Coming to terms with what they've done and why, Horstman says, helps them start the process of healing.
I can't really think of ever hearing my mom say growing up, "Son, I love you."
Reducing childhood trauma will then lower their chances of reoffending.
95% of the people in prison are going to come home someday. And do you want a good neighbor or do you want a good criminal?
For Ford, it was a moment of realization that he's not alone.
It showed that no matter what you go through, there's always someone here that has went through it with you.
Even though his road to recovery is just beginning, he's hopeful, knowing that unshackling the chains of the past is the right step towards freedom. Itai Had, KPIX 5.